All right, Young Trick says, the person revealing the UFO info in the congressional hearing yesterday had express written permission from the DOD to reveal that info that he did. I think it's a psyop. Yes. And for many psychic intuitives and like us and people who have contact experiences. I mean, I've had many ET contact experiences. I'm sure you guys have too in different ways. Sometimes it's dream time, sometimes it's through abduction kind of experience, sometimes it's being out in nature. I mean, there's so many different ways that it can happen. I've actually had ships come to me like, they look like a star in the sky, but I know very clearly it's a ship. And they're like talking to me in that light. You know, I mean, it's really difficult for a normal human to understand that kind of experience. But for us, it's like, oh yeah, that's how it works, right? I actually had a ship come to me to tell me that it's time to bring the group that I was with to a Stargate that we had in mind to visit, you know. But these things, you know, the energy and the spirit has to be in the right time. So getting back to the psyop thing, so the psyop, this is true. They want to the psyop is here. This is the whole goal of the psyop, is to paint a certain picture of extraterrestrials so they can manipulate the masses to give up certain levels of their control, certain levels of their sovereignty for the sake of peace on earth. Because the idea is that the human leaders are going to drive us towards total annihilation through war, and we need these benevolent ETs to be here to bring peace to the masses. And the people are so hungry for peace, especially the people that are in places that are war torn. I mean, you guys, it's, you know, in America, there's the level of privilege you guys don't even understand. You know, there are cities that bear the marks of the scars of war that happened decades ago, you know, like huge rounds in these buildings. I mean, I went to Sarajevo in 2019, still shot up. The city is still, you can see where, you know, there were sniper nests, you can see where tanks were shooting. I mean, you can still see all of that, even though it was in 94 when that happened. This was 2019. So you can just imagine the scars that are left from war. You know, going to Holland was another great example. Rotterdam was completely flattened by Hitler, and that was really what bent Holland to the will of the Germans, was they didn't want another of their cities to be destroyed like that. And of course, so you know, that whole narrative played out. So, you know, war is an awful, awful business. And the only people that benefit from war are the people in charge, the profiteers. You know, it's all the people who are invested in those investment groups that make weapons, that the gas and oil, diesel industry, right? The people that are fighting the war, or the people who are there to reap the benefits. They, like Iraq got completely looted by people in high levels of government. Their museums looted, their treasuries were looted. Okay, like the amount of gold that was taken out of Iraq because it was completely destroyed. Who do you think got that? Nobody talks about it. Nobody's asking, right? Because they want it that way. So war is a great way to put people into a position where they're willing to give up things. Okay. And if you couple that with this experience that the entire system is collapsing and we're all going to starve and millions are going to die, and it's just going to be death and suffering, you know, then of course people are going to accept a narrative like this, where the Galactic Federation comes down, offers to feed all the hungry, bring peace in exchange for A, B, C, and D, right? And people are going to accept that. So that's what I believe the psyop is going towards, is to frame it up where people are ripe to be taken advantage of. And there's this whole idea that, you know, we are susceptible to beings with more advanced technologies. And the thing is, we are, but it's not anything new. It's something that has incepted the consciousness of this planet hundreds of thousands of years ago, y'all. For real. The fall of Atlantis is a false timeline. That's a timeline that was implanted within the timeline realities of this planet, of this realm. Okay. Now, I mean, just sit back for a second and think about that. Go all the way back to the history that's been told to us about the Orion War. Now, remember what I said about history is always written by the winners? Who do you think benefits from the Orion War timeline? Right? So time is not set in stone. It's not. Time, as Doctor Who would say, is a wibbly wobbly knot of goo. That's really how time is. We experience linear time as an arrow going through the air because that's what our consciousness can. This is how our consciousness can have a relationship to it. But time is fluid. So that means certain so when you change timelines, the here and now energy changes, and the history that led up to that here and now also changes. Okay, so when you are radically shifting timelines, the history that makes you who you are via soul's journey, but also via your birth in this plane and all the experiences and conditionings you had from your upbringing and your ancestors, all that changes when you have a radical timeline shift. So that means that there is a reality out there, folks, where there is no Orion War. There's no Orion War. There's a timeline that's out there like that. And there's also a timeline where the consciousness of Atlantis never fell. Think about that one for a minute. Now, the reason why this is so important is because all of this out here in the cosmos is our history. It's where we've come from. It's what informs our here and now, even though our conscious mind can't touch it. It informs us via the elemental intelligence that makes up this biosuit. Science has shown to us that the elemental compounds that make up this biosuit quite literally came from the belly of stars, of nebulas. We have our elemental intelligence goes all the way back to its cosmic origin. This is why we call star seeds, because there's something in our encodement that allows our consciousness to source from the star consciousness that our biosuit came from. Not just the soul's journey stuff, but the actual biosuit, the DNA. Okay. So imagine if the cosmology of your being, the DNA, had no record of the Orion War, had no record of the AI invasion, had no record of the Draco agenda to hijack Dragon DNA and manipulate it into warmongering, power over dynamic realities. Imagine. Now, it's possible for us to connect into those timelines. And it's possible because of the indigenous masters that held on to the ancient wisdom. Okay, they held on to this wisdom against all odds. If you think about it, think about the level of hunting that has happened to our indigenous elders, still happening today with our indigenous elders, the ones that are really making a huge impact and real leaders of their people. They get murdered all the time, especially here, Central South America. They are targeted because, they are really potent leaders. And the reason why these leaders are showing up, well, there's many reasons, but I really feel like there's a massive vacuum for real leadership, and people know a real leader when they see it, right? And they will follow it because what else do they have to choose from? More division, more manipulation, So indigenous leaders, elders, keepers of this knowledge in I think it was 92, were given the indication, now's the time to start releasing the teachings, because it was going to take that long to get the colonized mind out of the poison matrix and even capable of recognizing the times of what's happening right here and right now. My indigenous teachers taught us how to have a preferred timeline inform us in the here and now. And it was in the context of healing oneself from incurable diseases. And one of the stories was a dear friend that he was healing his life and changed everything about it, meant the love of his life. And then 2 weeks later was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor, and he was supposed to be dead in a couple of weeks, So they went to work into how to get him on a timeline where he was going to live longer. And they did. It succeeded. He lived for, I think, another 10, 15 years, okay, with the love of his life. So these mechanisms, these techniques have been taught to the colonized mind, taught to us outsiders for many, many years. And it's gotten so digested where the younger generations, I guess I'm including myself in the younger generations, we have a clear idea of how to work with changing timelines, what it feels like to have them crumble, what it looks like to actually purposely navigate these timelines, right? This is waking up to that 4D. Now, of course, we've awoken far beyond that, but now we have a practical application of how to manipulate the 4D to give us the experiences we truly want, right? So, there's things like that is really what is saving, I want to say saving humanity from their total demise, is the work and dedication of the keepers of old, these indigenous keepers that kept alive these mystery school teachings, to great cost of themselves and their family.